Hello basketball coaches and basketball players, my name is Alan from Al's Basketball Training, and today I'm going to talk to you about some of my top 5 rare basketball plays against the zone defense that I have seen myself. So in this first basketball play, what we're going to have is player 3. He's going to be going up and setting a screen on player 1. Now this is a 2-3 zone. So what we're going to have is player 3 setting that screen. Player 1 is going to use that screen, and that's going to be pulling player 3 up to go and guard him. At this time, player 3, instead of rolling towards the basket, is just going to be popping out towards the three-point line. And at the same time as that screen is happening, we're going to be having player 5 screening that center man in that 2-3. Player 4 is going to be coming across. He's going to be popping out towards the mid-range, maybe even the three-point line area. And now we are basically isolating player 3 red to guard now essentially 3 players. The reason why he's essentially guarding 3 players is because player 5 has now screened and sealed his man, so that now he's posting up his man essentially almost right underneath the basket. Now we also have player 4 who's open, and player 1, where if player 3 was to drop off to play defense on him, could take that shot, take a step in and take that shot. A couple of different things could happen. So he is going to be now isolated for 3 players, essentially 2.5. So what's going to happen now is player 1 can now pass to player 4 for that mid-range or 3-point shot. Now if he can't get that shot off fast enough and player 3 comes down to guard him, we may have player 1 open, which is going to make player 1 scramble. Player 1 blue can then pass the ball around to player 3, which could make player 2 scramble. And now we would have player 3 passing to player 2 for the shot. Again, if that makes player 4 scramble, we could have player 4 blue again cut baseline out towards the other side, and now he could be open. So there's many different options. We essentially isolated player 3 along the side. If there was a good quick defense, we could then pass the ball around the arc, reverse the ball essentially, and that's one of the ways that you can beat a zone defense is by reversing the ball off of a screen and roll. And from there you'll have an open player. So you'll either have player 4 open on this side or that side. Okay, so in this next play, the second play, we're going up against a 2-1-2 zone. And from there, what we're going to have is most 2-1-2 zones do not trap up top. They're usually trapping along the free throw line extended. So what we're going to have here is most likely player 5 moving up, player 2 and 1 moving down, turning it into a 3-2. The idea behind most 2-1-2 zones is so that it looks like a 3-2, and then when the ball gets reversed or passed out of the point, player 5 moves down, the lower 2 players then move out, and it turns into a 2-3. Essentially, in a really good 2-1-2, we have a player 5 who is able to guard this whole area. Now, there are some teams over in Asia that now, instead of doing that, they'll have their point guard doing that middle area. So just keep that in mind. That may also be something that you could see in a 2-1-2. Now, in this play, what we're going to be having is we're going to be starting with player 1 dribbling out of the point and then getting a double team over in this corner. At this time, we're going to be seeing player 3 covering the middle. Player 2 is covering a reverse pass. Player 4 is kind of isolated out with these 2 players. Now, these 2 players, this is going to be our shooter. We're going to have player 4 setting a screen for player 2 or on player 4. Player 2 is going to be running out of that screen. Player 1 is going to pass him the ball, and he's going to take that quick shot. So in reality, this is a quick hitter basketball play that you can run. Now, if player 4 was to fight through to try and defend that, and player 5 is not able to get down towards the post fast enough, we could have player 4 open rolling towards the basket for that layup. And then keep in mind, if player 5 and 3 was to collapse on player 4, we could have a kick out to player 5 or player 3 for the 3-point shot. So this is very similar to the S baseline inbounds play that I have on my channel a couple of different times. However, this is our third play of the day. We're going to have player 1 dribble over towards this left side so that he can get the double team from player 2. Meanwhile, player 4 and 5 are going to be setting up a wall screen on player 5 red, And this is against the 3-2 zone if you didn't already notice. And then player 2 or whoever the point guard calls out up point. So let's say this is Thomas and this is Tyler. If he says S Tyler or S Thomas, let's say for example here Thomas is going to be cutting baseline using player 5 and 4 as a screen for player 5, in which case player 1 can then make a quick pass over to player 2 for a mid-range or 3-point shot. Again, this is another quick hitter that you could run with your team. So this next play is up against a 2-3 zone, and we're going to be having a line of 3 players right here. What we're going to start with is, we could actually start these guys a bit higher, and that's personally what I would do. And we're going to have basically player 4 setting a screen on player 3 and player 5 setting a screen on player 5. Player 2 is going to be popping up between those screens. Player 1 is going to be dribbling just a bit to that side so that he can pull over that other defender up top. That way he can pass to player 2, and player 2 has a decision now. Player 2 can take that shot, or what's going to happen is player 3 red is going to try and fight through to stop that shot. Player 4 is going to be leaking out towards the baseline. Meanwhile, that defender has moved in. And now we could be having player 2 taking that shot still, or he could pass to player 4 for the mid-range shot. Now this pass has to be either a quick chest pass or a bounce pass. Bounce pass might be preferable because if player 3 is really trying to leak around, his hands may be up and you might need to get that bounce pass through. However, if you have a good fake, you could make a good chest pass. Now, we're going up against a 3-2 zone defense once again, and we're actually running a simple box offense. A lot of coaches think that the box offense is only for man-to-man defenses, but I beg to differ. So watch this. We're going to have player 1 start dribbling towards this side, which is going to pull player 1 and 3 together. We're going to have player 5 set a screen for player 3, and player 4 is going to be setting a screen for player 5. Meanwhile, what's going to be happening is player 3 over here or player 2, one of those two players is going to be cutting across the key and using player 4 as a screen. They need to make a decision. Actually, the point guard can even make the decision for them. So let's say he's decided on player 3. Player 4 is setting a solid screen. Player 5 is setting a solid screen. And from there, player 3 should be open somewhere in the mid-range or 3-point line area. From there, player 1 can pass him the ball. And a couple of different things here can happen. We can have player 5 roll off that screen because player 3 needs to get down to try and trap that, or player 5 needs to fight through, one or the other. Meanwhile, with player 5 rolling off that screen, that allows him to be open from that mid-range elbow area. Now in this play, your point guard may also find that player 3 might just try and cheat through player 5 as a screen, and player 1 could just then dribble up towards the 3-point line and take that shot. But that will really only happen if you tend to run this play 2, 3, or 4 times in the same quarter. Okay, so I hope that these 5 basketball plays help you score more points in your next game against the zone defense. If they do, let us know in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. And also, go check out my custom practice plans for your team down in the top comment as well as the description below. And I'll see you guys again later on today for the second video of the day.